good.
Live? Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order on December 7th. This is the Winchester Board of Education meeting beginning at 7:01. And let's begin, as usual, with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And let's go on to, let's move on to the roll call, please, beginning with Sal.
Here.
Doug Fenninger.
Melanie Brady Shanley.
Jeanette Broder.
Renee Waldron.
Dick Dutton.
Nora McCarthy.
Okay, thank you. So we have 3 absences this evening. I know Sandra had indicated she could not be here, and Kristen had informed us, and we're hoping Cheryl will join us later. Are there any changes to the agenda this evening? And can you hear me, Rosie? Yes. Thank you. Yes.
I have one addition, which would be the estimate from Pine Creek Construction to add. So Barb, what this means is that you're gonna, under that noted area for agenda changes, you're gonna say Melanie Brady Shanley is adding an invoice under section board action items,
It'll actually be a quote, right? Not an
Yep.
invoice.
letter E. Pine Creek Construction.
Okay. If there are no other changes, can I have a motion to approve that change?
I'll motion.
Second. Okay, that was Renee with a,
Okay, so the motion to approve was made by Dr. Dutton, or, no, Doug.
no, it was Renee, I think.
Is it Renee?
Renee was the motion.
Renee was the motion, Dr. Dutton was the second. And vote
All in favor? Okay, it's unanimous, thank you.
unanimous.
Any other changes? My comments this evening, just a couple. I hope those of you who were there enjoyed Nick Caruso's presentation. I have to tell you, it was extremely condensed. He covered in one evening what most of us who went through the receivership and the Lighthouse project covered in about 30 different meetings. So if you feel like it was an overwhelming amount of stuff that was thrown at you, it was. And I hope you gleaned something from it. But again, it was very compressed. One takeaway that I do have that I would like the rest of us to consider is the handout that Nick gave us, the role of the board for improving student learning. And I thought the 5 points on that were really good. And what my intention is over the next year for Melanie and I to pick an item from this sheet to include on our agenda for discussion every month, so we can keep visiting this and use it as sort of a template for how we want to stay on track and do our best to improve student learning. I do think that was a really cogent summary of everything he presented to us that night. The other thing I want to talk about briefly for the benefit of our new members is that we do have a meeting coming up on the 13th with the Gilbert School Corp to hear a proposed contract that Melanie and Greg Chagru have put together. And I realize that at least 4 of you have not had the benefit of all the experience that many of us have had with the Gilbert School Corp. So I wanted to give you a little bit of history. The Gilbert School goes back to 1895, and it was basically a privately endowed school that was intended to educate the children of Winchester at no cost to the town. Over the course of the succeeding decades, the endowment for the trust declined, and it finally reached a point where the Gilbert Trust had to start charging the town for the tuition for our students. And that triggered the need to have a negotiation between the school board and the Gilbert Trust to decide how much we would pay them on an annual basis for educating our children. So this has gone on for many years, and at times it was a really smooth process, and other times it was very acrimonious. But what evolved over the course of the last decade or two is a very long, detailed contract that the Gilbert School Corp folks had put together, and every negotiation basically became a session where we started to dissect that document and try to decide what would work and what wouldn't. The Gilbert folks have a strong feeling of legacy, and they wanted to keep every word, dot, and comma, and our board was not so enthralled with their document and wanted to just keep it very simple. And there were a lot of issues that got in the way of having a contract, some personalities, some just, I think, probably a basic fundamental difference between us is the Gilbert School Corp knows they're the only game in town, and they acted that way. We felt like we're paying all the bills, we should have more say, even though the school corp is structured so that we have 4 out of 9 of the members on their board. It didn't give us a majority, and more often than not, in votes that were really critical, the Winchester School did not win. So it became a very big source of friction with us. So without going into a lot of detail on the history there, I would tell you that what's become very clear is that although at times we said there was no real benefit to having a contract because we're going to send our kids there and you're going to charge us what you're going to charge, so why are we going through all this? Well, what's happened more recently is the Gilbert School has had to do a number of very expensive improvements to the school, namely roof repairs and air handlers, and some of those are eligible for state reimbursement should the school corp have a 10-year contract with the municipality, which they did not have. So what that means is that 70% of a roof replacement could potentially be paid for by the state as opposed to the Winchester taxpayers. And in our most recent budget with Gilbert, they did in fact include, I think, a $200,000 or $300,000 line item, might even be more, for roof repairs. And every year going on into the future is going to have a similar line item, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less. So for us to ignore the potential state reimbursements just didn't seem prudent. However, history taught us that when we sat down to negotiate, it was very often fruitless and acrimonious and not a lot of fun. So when Greg Chagru joined the school corp, and he and Melanie had started to develop a very good relationship as opposed to what had happened with his predecessor, I suggested that perhaps Melanie and Greg could sit down together and draft a contract that we could all vote on. And they did that, and that's what we're going to hear on the 13th. So Gilbert is a quasi-public school, meaning it's a private school that also educates public students. There's only 2 other schools in the state, Woodstock Academy and Norwich Free Academy. The difference with them is they actually take children from multiple municipalities as opposed to Gilbert, which only takes, because everybody else is defaulted to Region 7 or Granby or elsewhere, only Winchester students, with the exception of one Heartland student, I think, goes to Gilbert. So that puts us in sort of a unique position, but what Melanie and Greg did, I believe, is borrow from the Woodstock contract pretty heavily when they drafted the contract that they're going to present to us on the 13th, and that's what we're going to see. I have not seen it yet. Melanie will, and Greg will, you're jointly presenting it. I guess my only comment is, when we meet, it's important to consider the ramifications of that contract and whether you believe it's advantageous to us. And your vote should be based on that. However, having said that, if we look at this contract that they present it, as they present it, and we start to nitpick it and say, well, you know, we like this, but we don't like that, we like this, but we don't like that, and the school corp does it as well, we're going to be right back where we started. We're going to have to start having each board negotiate what they want and what they don't want. So I'm hoping there's an opportunity to listen to what Greg and Melanie present and agree that it may not be perfect, but it's workable, and let's try it out. So again, I wouldn't want to pressure anybody to vote for something they're not comfortable with, but just understand that if we do start to tease this apart in any way, we're going to go back. So I just wanted to get that out there, and it was more comfortable for me to say this now rather than having the school court members in the same room and hearing that. Just made me be a little bit more forthright. So that's it for me. We have a presentation this evening on Screen and Stay.
I just have a quick clarifying question. So that contract is for 10 years then?
Yes.
There's one that we're,
None of that is for public knowledge right now, so
Oh,
there is no
okay.
information out there on this contract yet.
Okay, well, all right, I misspoke, but I will say, though, that a 10-year contract is something that we're shooting for.
okay.
Oh, I have one more question, Mr.
Yep.
Chairman. So we're gonna get that contract or the particulars on it on that day that we will vote on it, on that very day?
You will not be voting on it that day.
Okay, very good, thank you.
No, we're not sharing any details of the contract ahead of time to ensure that we do not have any predetermined opinions. So we want to present this in a joint fashion and make sure that everyone hears the information for the first time from the two of us together.
Fair enough. Any other questions? Yeah, Don.
Comment. It's nice to have our superintendent say the two of us together, because that phrase has not been used very much in the past, and this is a step forward.
Mhm.
And I for one, am very, very hopeful that I could live with the terms of the contract when I read it for the first time.
Me too. Thanks, Dick. And Dick has been a veteran of, I couldn't even begin to count how many.
All the issues.
Just maybe the one up there would be great.
Last one, of course.
Okay, so many of you have received some emails from me recently regarding the fact that we have students that are participating now in a process called Screen and Stay. So I wanted to start with where families can go to get information, since we have new members of the board here tonight, to be able to show you on our website kind of where our information is. So this is the homepage of our website, winchesterschools.org. And what you need to do is just come down here, click on COVID-19 information, and in a historical fashion, we have all of the documents associated with our COVID protocols and how we've addressed issues throughout the district, and important documents that the state encourages us to put up also. So the most recent addition, and there'll be one more addition tomorrow, is the Screen and Stay PowerPoint. And I'm not going to go through this PowerPoint because you're going to see it here in just a second, but families would simply click on it, and then they get access to the PowerPoint. But what I am going to take you through this evening is the video that's being posted tomorrow, and this is the explanation of the Screen and Stay protocols, that instead of families just reading a PowerPoint, I'm explaining the PowerPoint to them so that I can address, hopefully any misunderstandings they may have as I'm explaining it. So what I'm going to do right now, this is the video that will be posted tomorrow, and I'm going to put this so that hopefully people at home can hear it also. Just turn the volume up the whole way. Maybe. Okay, hold on, back to the drawing board for 1 second.
Superintendent of Winchester Public Schools. This video is to discuss and share updated information on the Screen and Stay protocol. At this time, I'm going to share my screen with you to further the information. Screen and Stay protocols, updated December 7th, 2021. Screen and Stay is in response to the increased vaccination rates amongst the age groups of 5 to 11 and 12 to 18. It is also a response to the low transmission rate of COVID-19 within the school setting. It supports academic progress, social-emotional well-being for both students and staff members. The Screen and Stay protocols permit students and staff who would have otherwise had to have quarantined due to exposure while in school to choose to continue to report to in-person school or work, provided that the exposure occurred in the school between masked individuals, or the exposure occurred between either masked or unmasked individuals in certain supervised outdoor activities, and the student and staff member identified as a close contact remain asymptomatic, and both the school and family can implement the selected procedures to further reduce in-school transmission risk. Situations that do support Screen and Stay are: the contact was in the school building during the regular instructional day, the contact was on the school bus, and both parties were masked, the contact was outside during a staff monitored period of time. Situations that do not support Screen and Stay: the contact occurred outside of the school, either in the home, maybe at a sleepover, or possibly athletics. It occurred indoors where masks were removed and 6 feet of distance was not maintained, or possibly during extracurricular activities or other activities outside the school day, such as sports or before and after school care. The Screen and Stay process consists of the parent being notified of their child being a direct contact. The parent then has to sign off on Appendix 1, which is the affirmation of intent to comply with the Screen and Stay requirements. On this, the parent will agree that they have read the Screen and Stay guidance documents and they understand them, that they understand that the Screen and Stay applies only to in-person learning or work, and that the person must continue to quarantine away from the public athletic teams or social activities and follow normal quarantine procedures outside of the school day. They also understand that they will perform a daily symptom assessment based upon Appendix 2, and that this must be submitted to the school for 14 calendar days. And that the person above will quarantine at home and not report to school if they should experience any COVID-19 symptoms, such as a fever, cough, shortness of breath, fatigue, muscle or body aches, headache, new loss of taste or smell, a sore throat, congestion, nausea, or diarrhea. The next part of the process is Appendix 2, and this is where the parent agrees to complete and return the daily symptom screening checklist for 14 calendar days. This form will be predated by the school nurse, and the child must report immediately to the nurse each day prior to reporting to their scheduled class, and they will submit this paperwork to the nurse. If the paperwork is not submitted, the student is held in the nurse's office until the parent can be reached and the form be obtained. On this particular daily symptom screening checklist for families, parents on a daily basis will review if their children have any of the following symptoms. If they do, they will keep their children home. If they don't, they will send them to school. The other two questions that they have to answer no to in order to report to school is, has the person been in close contact with any other individual outside the school known to have COVID-19 in the past 24 hours? And has the person been instructed by a local health official to quarantine or isolate within the past 24 hours? This is the daily attestation that families will fill out. If you are answering no to these questions, again, your child may report to school. If you answer yes to any of these questions here, the child must immediately quarantine, and I would urge you to please contact your child's pediatrician. For further information on the Screen and Stay process, we ask you to please contact your child's school nurse. Thank you.
So that's the video that will be posted tomorrow on the website, along with the PowerPoint that you viewed this evening. Do you have any questions on Screen and Stay?
Thank you, Melanie.
Thank you.
You want to move on to your staffing?
Yes. Okay. So at the request of the Board of Education Chair, Mr. Fenninger had made a request to kind of give this Board of Education an overview of our current staffing model that we have within the Winchester Public Schools. So to go over this with you, what you're seeing in your packet on page 3 is an overview. So currently, right now, we have 164 employees in the district. Those employees are placed at Bachelor, Oak, Pearson, Gilbert School, and Central Office. We have 7 unions that we're responsible for. We have the administrators, teachers, paraprofessionals, nurses, administrative assistants, and custodial. We have a number of positions within the district that require certification and a number that do not. Throughout your document here, what you're going to see is that highlighted positions are certified positions. Positions without highlighting are non-certified positions. On the left-hand side of your chart, you will see the number of people that are associated with each position and/or department. So for instance, we have central office, which consists of myself, an executive director or an executive assistant, a benefits coordinator, and the student data systems. We also have a business office, which consists of several positions, a student services office, which consists of several positions. And the positions are listed on the right-hand side. Once you get down into where you're seeing art, music, library, physical education, school administrators, much of these positions here are located within the school buildings, and they serve directly to our students. In looking at the next page, currently across the district, and this is inclusive of Gilbert, Pearson, Oak, and Bachelor School, we have 7 interventionists. We have 3 kindergarten assistants. We have lunch personnel that are included in this count. We have nurses, occupational therapists, 35 paraprofessionals, 1 school psychologist. We have reading specialists, social workers, special education teachers, and speech and language pathologists. We technically are supposed to have 3 SLPs. However, due to staffing right now and not having the availability of personnel in the state, we only have 1 currently, or 1 vacancy currently. And then below, I thought it might be a good idea to give you a general gist, and this is not an all-inclusive list of job responsibilities in any capacity, but a general gist of an overview of what each of the positions take on as part of their roles. So, does anyone have any questions on staffing? Dr. Dutton?
No physicians? No physicians?
We don't have any doctors. Sorry, Dr. Dutton. You're a lone doctor.
Melanie, the technology specialist,
Yes.
where does that fall under?
So he serves out of central office, but is school-based in the fact that he handles all of the IT, all of our district infrastructure, and any troubleshooting needs that come around. Literally, he handles every aspect of technology in the district.
Do we partner at all with the town in IT?
No, our systems are completely separate.
And Joe is full-time? Is he 4 days?
He is 0.8. He is 4 days.
Okay, there's no other questions. Thank you for doing that, Mel. I just wanted, particularly for the new members, to have an idea of the depth and breadth of the staffing here in town. 164 employees is a lot of people to employ in a town like Winstead. It probably makes us one of the bigger employers, but also it just gives you an idea of what kind of capacity we have within the district. So I think it's important for everybody to understand that, particularly when you look at some of the certified positions that are not just classroom teachers, but English language support, administrators, library media, things that you wouldn't ordinarily think about, but they play an important role in the school district. So thank you again for doing that, Mel. I hope everybody gets something out of that.
You're welcome.
the one thing that maybe people want to know the number of paraprofessionals, that's all federally IEP driven, so that's why that number is sometimes high.
Yeah, well, and quite frankly, it's low compared to what it could or should be. Right now, we have 35 paraprofessionals. It's a difficult area right now to be able to fill with staff right now because every district is looking for more paraprofessionals right now, and they're few and far between in terms of being able to hire quality individuals at this moment. So, yes, Nora, you're right in the fact that in some cases, those students are connected directly to a single paraprofessional, but in many cases, our paraprofessionals serve multiple students within grade levels to make sure that we're expanding services to as many students as possible.
Okay, thank you. Public comment is the next item on our agenda. Is there anybody here from the public? No? In which case, we can move right on to consent agenda. What?
Still have to say it 3 times.
Even though there's nobody here? All right, do it by the numbers. Anybody would like to make a public comment? Going twice. Would anybody like to make a public comment? Going 3 times. Thank you. We have 2 items on the consent agenda the consent agenda this evening. The minutes from our last BOE meeting and the minutes of the special meeting. And I would just like to again thank Barb for helping us out. You've done a great job. I think your minutes are very comprehensive and give us a good sense of what happened. So thank you for that. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda, including those 2 items?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Jeanette. Is there a second? Doc? Okay, any discussion? If not, all in favor? Aye.
I'm abstaining.
Okay, 1 abstention.
1 abstention, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 4, 0 against, 1 abstention.
Our next item is the Gilbert report from the Board of Ed representative, and I don't have anything to add at this time. If Chris were here, I'm sure she could tell us some details, since she's a parent of a child at the school, but, Doc, do you have anything you'd like to say at this point? It's been a pretty quiet month. Correspondence to the board?
We have 2 letters of resignation, one from an art teacher and one from a library media specialist. I'd like the board to please accept with regret.
Okay, a motion to accept those 2 resignations?
I'll make a motion to accept. I'll second.
Okay, a motion. Any comments or discussion? With regret is an important word there. Thank you. All in favor? That's unanimous. And we're back to Melanie.
All right, so for my superintendent's report, we've continued our leadership support meetings. On Veterans Day, all schools recognize servicemen and women by hosting an assembly acknowledging their service, and sponsored students presented them to the audience. Additionally, WPS partnered with the Old Riverton Inn and provided over 200 items to support our troops overseas. The art club has concluded, and we had 42 students participate in art club. Beginning in January, students in grades 4 to 6 will have the opportunity to learn to ski. We will have 35 students going to Ski Sundown to be able to learn to ski. We have held our first quarter meeting regarding our alliance partnership with Iris White from the State Department of Ed. At that meeting, we reviewed our goals, targets, and progress to date. On December 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, we held parent-teacher conferences, and we used the Pick-a-Time program, and were able to schedule 503 conferences in 1 week. I attended and participated in the Alliance District meeting regarding educational briefs on student retention and early childhood literacy. We had the Vision to Learn eye screenings taking place throughout the district. And on December 6th, we held the district-wide walkthroughs that focused on instruction with the realm of unified arts. So, under operations, we've held multiple Hinsdale School Renovation Committee meetings focused on current progress and next steps. I have had the state approval meeting regarding the 2 playgrounds at the Hinsdale School and the FF&E package, both of which were signed off on by the DAS department today. We've held a building tour at Hinsdale for the Board of Ed and Hinsdale School Renovation Committee. Conducted several preparatory budget meetings with Mrs. O'Day Wyrick, and the meetings have been focusing on staffing, zero-based budget process, and identification of spending needs for the 22-23 school year. The bus company contract is under review at this point, and adjustments are being made based upon the actual usage and numbers of buses. Our nursing contract negotiations have started, and Ms. O'Day Wyrick and I have been working on initial recommendations and changes to the contract. The Pearson rekeying survey has been complete, and you'll see the invoice and approval recommendation tonight before the board regarding that. Facilities inspections took place to begin the process of readying buildings for moves. Specifically, we paid a lot of attention in the past week and a half to bachelor school and making sure that they're purging throughout the year and not just waiting till the end. And then we've held several meetings regarding technology needs for smart boards at Hinsdale, and you will also see that come before the Board of Education as an action item this evening. Under leadership, I've participated in several legislative meetings with CAPS, continue to participate in third Friday meetings with the commissioner. I've held several meetings with Amy Kennedy for her internship support. Amy's here with us this evening. Held multiple meetings with Greg up at Gilbert to craft a draft contract. Participated in an Americans with Disabilities Act interactive hearing. Participated in several Department of Public Health meetings. Introduced the Screen and Stay program. Provided an online video that explains the process for families, which you viewed this evening. And the Board of Education and I participated in CABE training. We also have some upcoming events that I've noted on here for you. On the 13th at 6:30, we have the Gilbert School Corp and WBA draft contract presentation. The 14th, Board of Education committee meetings starting at 6:30. December 22nd at 1 o'clock at Pearson, we're doing our local national spelling bee competition. On the 23rd at 9:15 in all buildings, students will have their PJs on, they'll be watching a movie, and we'll be feeding them cookies really early in the morning. And then they have a half a day on the 23rd. From the 24th to January 2nd, they're on holiday break, and students will return from break on January 3rd. Under enrollment, right now for...
Before you go on,
Yep.
one question. When you meet with Iris White from the state regarding our Alliance District goals and targets, how does that work, since even though we are officially an Alliance District, we're really not in the same position that most of the other districts are, since we've exceeded a lot of those goals. So how does that play out with her?
So she's still very interested in the work that we're doing to continue a lot of the Commissioners Network work and how we're using our Alliance funds. So our conversation really centered around the professional development that we're doing within the district right now around social emotional DESA work that we're doing. Also focused a large part of the conversation on the non-certified training of small group instruction for our non-certified staff members and the feedback that we've been giving teachers on our walkthroughs that we've been completing. As the board is aware, when Iris was physically in the district with us on a monthly basis, we were doing walkthroughs with the state to be able to observe the instructional improvements throughout the district. And we've continued that process without the state being involved. So she's very interested in how those walkthroughs are going, juxtaposed to what our goals and objectives are for the school year.
I have a question, if I may. When are we going to receive the draft contract that you've been working on?
Yep, so Greg and I will be presenting it jointly that evening to both sides. So in an effort to not have any predetermined opinions that evening, we are jointly going to be sharing it with both respective boards that evening.
I would like to have it ahead of time to be able to look at it. I don't find a joint presentation to be very conducive to looking at something and understanding something fully.
So we're going to present it jointly at first. Then the boards will have the opportunity to walk away from that joint meeting to be able to determine what their next steps will be. We are not asking for any action on it that evening.
I would still prefer to get it early. That's my position.
So any other questions on that?
Nope.
No? Okay. Moving on to enrollment. For December 1st, we had a district-wide enrollment of 563 students, and that's up 22 students from our August 3rd numbers. Our attendance percentages are averaging across the district at about 94% on a daily basis. Still not satisfied in any capacity where our chronic absenteeism numbers are, but I have to tell you, this is related to illness. It's related to us telling people to keep their kids home. You know, they're double and triple what they typically are for us across the district. So they're extremely abnormally high, but I don't see any relief in that until really COVID is gone. Gilbert enrollment is 418 at this moment, with 17 international students, 1 out-of-district enrollment for a total population of 436.
Do we know why they lost 4 students? Where those students went? Did they leave the district, or?
They definitely are no longer Winchester residents.
Okay.
You know, there's one of 2 reasons. 1, they moved and they're no longer. 2, they went to homeschooling. 3, I don't think they've had any dropouts, but potentially that could be a situation. More than likely, it's a locational move. And that concludes my enrollment reports. The next thing I believe is the budgetary reports. So right now, just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Yes, okay. Right now, our appropriated budget is going to be sitting as a year end. We're projecting $64,000. You're going to be seeing some numbers that are going to be coming across tonight that would bring that number to where you're seeing it currently at $64,000. We have not had much movement on the grant appropriation because we're just not there yet. So you're still seeing a large number of 2.1 million in grant areas because we have not moved into spending those funds as of yet. Any questions on the budget?
Well, the big number that stands out is still the special ed out of district, so that's looking pretty good. Obviously, we had some changes over what we anticipated. Yeah.
There's evidently one potential going out of district, but we're waiting to get the pricing on it. So I didn't have anything to put into the projection, anything to base it on at this time. But yeah, I should have it for the next month's report. It'll be included in there.
So is that student in the district now, but just not
Yes.
outplaced?
Yes.
Thank you, Nancy.
The next update is dealing with the Hinsdale School renovation. Right now, we have no safety concerns noted on the construction site, which is always good. They are currently working on the MEP, which is mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and they continue to work on the rough-ins. They've made a lot of headway in that area over the past few weeks. We have solved the roof situation, and the new roof is scheduled to be installed in January. The interior painting of hallways and selected rooms is taking place right now. The curved foundation wall, which is overlooking the brook area of the building, will be starting in mid-December. I expect that they're probably working on forms this week. The design aspects of the building are being finalized. Our playground and FF&E packages have been reviewed, and as of today, they've been approved by the Department of Administrative Services. Our sprinklers have been installed, and they're currently working on gas piping being placed on top of the roof for the temporary heating systems. The building's really cold right now, and I know the workers are looking forward to some warmth within the building.
I have a question. Generally, if you do a roof installation or replacement in the winter, it's more expensive. Are we incurring additional expense because the roof's being put on in January?
No, so right now, the whole thing with the roof, so we had a roof that they had originally spec'd out, which is a high performance, there's an acronym for it, and I don't know what the acronym is, but it was a white membrane roof, which
EPDM?
EPDM, yes. So they've switched the roof because that roof and the insulation system associated with that roof was not going to be available because of procurement of materials until October of 2022. Clearly, that was too late. So they have been working with several vendors, and they've obtained a black rubber membrane roof, which has a different acronym to it, that will be readily available, be able to be installed, meet all the requirements that the other roof in terms of efficiency was offering, that'll be available for installation beginning in January. So there are some like temporary heating measures that go to be put in place, but they said they will be more than able to move forward with the installation of the roof as it is spec'd and as it is designed. So there will be no issues with warranty or anything like that. Does that answer your question,
Yes,
Cheryl?
thank you.
Any other questions?
None on Hinsdale. And your division learning update?
Yes, so very exciting is the Vision to Learn program. And as you know, last month, the Board of Education approved $5,000 to support this program. So Vision to Learn is a nonprofit that raises funds throughout the United States for districts similar as ours. So ours is part of this program because we're labeled as an alliance district. And they came out and they screened all 560 some of our kids out here. And in the chart below, what you're going to see that on November 29th and 30th, Vision to Learn was in the district and they screened all the schools. In that day, they completed 490 vision screenings in less than 2 days. Our next steps for students that did not pass their screening, the nurse will call families of students who failed the screening and seek permission to complete a full eye exam. On exam day, the Vision to Learn van will come to each school. Students who fail the formal vision exam will receive glasses. On that day, they will select a frame of their choice from over 100 plus styles, and then the van will come back 2 to 3 weeks later with the students' glasses, and the vision van will come. The students will be fitted for their glasses by a professional, and they'll also be provided with a care package. So I've included in the chart below, you can see the pass-fail numbers for each of the building and overall as a district. The number of students who were tested were currently wearing glasses. The number of students who were absent on that day. We had one student that was not capable of being tested that day. And then overall, they had screened 516 students that day. So right now across the district, we had 73 students fail the exam. On average, Vision to Learn says you can expect anywhere between 15 and 25% of students to fail the screening, and we're right there in the middle of that typical percentage of failure. Any questions on Vision to Learn, Dr. Dutton?
How many of the students who failed had been known to have visual problems before coming to school?
So some of them we know because they had glasses on.
Right.
The majority of them, though, did not wear glasses, and either sometimes we have students that break their glasses and families can't afford to get them a replacement pair. So that might be the case. And then we have a large percentage of students that simply did not pass the exam for the first time, or this is the first time it's been brought to their attention.
So you're picking up a lot of kids who were not identified as needing glasses.
That is correct.
Excellent.
Yeah, it was a wonderful program. You know, Ms. Silverio and Ms. Field and myself, you hardly knew they were there. It was so quick, about 10 minutes a classroom. They were very positive when they were in the classrooms. It was just a really easy, smooth process to be able to participate with.
What's going to happen with the 25 children that were absent that day?
So our school nurses have the same exact vision screening goggles, so those students will get screened by our school nurse, and if they fail, then they'll be put into that same situation.
Great.
Any other questions on Vision to Learn?
I'm glad we're doing it for $5,000. That's a good investment.
It's an amazing investment. The nice thing that I think a lot of families will appreciate about this is if your child does end up getting glasses through this program, for the first year of your child having those glasses, if they are lost, broken, or damaged, they get a free replacement pair throughout that first year to no cost to the family.
Thank you, Melanie.
You're welcome.
We have some action items, actually the new hires, those are for informational purposes, but we do have some new hires to look at.
Yes, we have a library media specialist going to bachelor. We have a first grade teacher, Jennifer Hart, being hired for that position that was open. We have a school nurse filling at Pearson. Excuse me. We have a paraprofessional that we have been able to hire, and those are our hires for the month.
Did you have a lot of applicants for those positions, or was it?
Not a large pool, but a quality pool. So I'll take a quality pool over a large pool any day.
Good.
Mel, the other question for the library media specialist?
Yes,
The funding source of that one? It's blank.
it's probably the appropriated budget, but I'm going to have Nancy confirm on that.
It's the appropriated budget.
So that's GB?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
We have an ESSER grant we need to approve.
Yes, and I also want to introduce you to this new grant submission form. So when we did the November board meeting, we had a large number of grants that had been presented to the Board of Education. And I felt like I needed to find a way to be able to better communicate to the board what the purpose of the grant was. And, excuse me. I apologize. Sorry about that. I felt I needed to find a better.
You need action for new hires before you go on?
Do we need action for new hires?
No.
No.
No, the only person that the board hires officially is the superintendent. Everything else is just informational for us.
It is under the board action.
It's always been there, and it probably should be someplace else, but it's just part of an
We'll
information.
move it.
We'll move it next month.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a new grant submission form. So anytime we bring a grant before the Board of Education, we're going to provide you with some additional information regarding the grant and what our intent is in terms of what we are going to be using it for. So you'll see on the grant submission forms the title of the grant, which tonight is the Family Resource ESSER 2 funds, who is the author of the grant, and in this case, it's Ms. Bernard and Ms. O'Day Wyrick. The source of the grant for this one here, it is the State Department of Education. When the grant is due, which is December 17th, the time frame in which the usage must be had, which is January of 21 to September 30th of 23, and the department that it's associated with, which is the Family Resource Center, the grant amount of $25,000. And then under the purpose of the grant, this is largely the blurb that comes directly from our e-grants system, which is the language that the state gives us. So for this particular one here, it's supposed to be used for expansion of program in innovative programming. And then that purpose there is spelled out. Specifically right now, we are looking to write this grant to affect enrichment programs in the amount of $5,000 in the district, field trips for students in the amount of $10,000, transportation associated with those field trips, and then portions of staffing in the amount of $3,000. So we are looking for the Board of Education to approve the submission of the Family Resource Center ESSER 2 grant,
I'll make a
if there is no questions.
I have a question.
Yes.
The ESSER 2, this Family Resource Center, because we're approving it tonight, is that why it's not on page 26?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Did you
I'll
make
make
a
a
motion?
motion.
Okay, it's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second from Renee.
Renee?
Any discussion or questions on that grant?
Question, what's an example of an enrichment program?
So, for instance, being able to, we've had kids go to like R&B. They would be doing that, or we would be able to have like a program come into the school building, maybe like a pets program or something, or an author program come in, or an art experience, so those types of enrichment activities. And our Family Resource Center largely serves our babies, which are literally 1 year old, to about 4 years old. That's the age group that the Family Resource Center largely focuses on.
Does any of it, some of it can educate parents too, right?
Yes, that is a portion, not necessarily that this grant is being written around, but there is family engagement money and family education money associated with that program.
Any other questions? If not, let's vote. All in favor of that grant approval? Okay, looks like it's unanimous. Thank you. And we have a sole source quote from Dugmore and Duncan.
Yes, so the Dugmore and Duncan sole source quote, and it's, let me back up to make sure that everyone knows what a sole source is. So sometimes we have a company or a project or an item that is very specific that we want to make sure that, we get as that particular product or that particular company installing or using that product. So in this case, Dugmore and Duncan is the company that is going to be rekeying Pearson. So we have a security grant from the state of Connecticut, which we've actually been sitting on for several years. This portion of the grant will be used for the rekeying of Pearson. Right now, security-wise, this is a problem in our district in terms of our school security assessment because Pearson has probably close to 400 keys and no masters, no submasters, no grandmasters associated with it. So in a normal school system setup, you would have a grandmaster, you would have a list of submasters, you would have building masters, and then it breaks down further. Right now, we have 400 different keys. So we used this as an opportunity to make sure that with Hinsdale opening, that the keying system at Hinsdale matched the keying system at Pearson. So that way we have a proper security layering for our keys. So the company came out and there are certain cylinders that are universally used. So what we did was we made sure that this company, that the cylinders we were using at Hinsdale could be the same cylinders that we would be using at Pearson so that our keying systems would match and filter the way that they're supposed to. So that is why we were doing a sole source for Dugmore and Duncan. The sole source is in the total amount of, I believe it is $40,951.90 for the cores and the cylinders. And then there's an additional $2,026.43 for there's certain rooms at Pearson that have digital codes on them for security purposes. And we need to upgrade those digital code keypads, and that's the separate amount. So I'm asking the board to please approve the sole sources in the amount of $40,951.90 and $2,026.43 for the rekeying of Pearson. Any questions?
We have a motion from Doc.
I'll second.
In a second, I have a question. Is Dugmore and Duncan going to be doing the work at Hinsdale?
Yes,
So that's seamless, that's good.
100% seamless.
All right.
They also did the whole rekeying survey at Pearson and did all the counts.
So when we say key now, what do we really mean? Are we talking about a card that has? or is it a
So we
physical-
are talking about a physical key because in security protocols, you have to have physical keys, not just codes. We have some doors that have fob systems on them,
Yeah.
but that's not part of this. This is physical keying,
So it's like a piece of metal, just like an old-fashioned key.
a key.
And that's required to do that. We can't just go to, that's interesting. I never would have guessed that.
So Melanie, the picture inside of here is this something?
So the picture that you see for the Yale piece, I think it's on page 39, it's a little gray at the top there. That's a picture of the digital doorknob lock systems on selected locks within the building.
But there'll be keys there because you have.
Yep, absolutely.
And how is key access controlled? When you're a teacher, you get a key to your classroom, and it's the only key, the only room that your key works for, or is it?
Yes, so teachers will get a key to their classroom, and then they also have a universal key, which is a key that gets them into the school bathrooms, and it's also a lockdown key.
Okay, and I know there's a lot of things you can't talk about.
I cannot talk much further than that.
All right. Any other questions? So we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Okay, thank you all, that's unanimous.
Thank you for your support.
And next, sole source for R&B installation of smart boards.
Yes, so this is actually associated with the Hinsdale School. So as you are aware, we tried to put some of the work into the appropriated budget that would be associated with Hinsdale so that we wouldn't incur an upcharge on it. So this is the 29 smart boards, I believe off the top of my head, from the Bachelor School and from Oak Street School that will be moved by R&B, which is our company that deals with all of our smart board technologies historically. So they will physically be taking them off the wall, taking the projectors off the wall in the buildings, and then physically moving them over to Hinsdale and professionally reinstalling them so that we're not incurring the cost of the building companies doing that, the moving of that from them, and then potentially having to buy new smart boards. We're able to reuse the current smart boards that we have installed throughout the school buildings. Do I have any questions on that?
I just have one thing that's in the back of my mind. How often do teachers use smart boards?
Every single day, all day.
Okay, so they interact with the technology, the special marker, la la la.
Everything. They're interactive, they're clickable, they're constantly using them throughout the day. It's probably one of the most used device we have in the district outside of the teacher's laptop. So I'm asking for the board's approval for $23,832.49 for R&B Enterprises for the moving and reinstallation of smart boards.
Question. The moving and installation is $23,000.
So they have to remove them first,
Yeah,
then they have to move them, then they have to reinstall.
okay,
Now, was
understood.
smart boards calculated into the Hinsdale project?
No, it was not. We had all intentions of keeping our smart boards because otherwise the price of a brand new smart board right now is about $3,500 a board,
And how many boards are being moved?
29.
So this is definitely the more cheaper.
This
way.
is definitely the more cost-effective solution, for sure.
Concern that they're gonna get damaged when being removed?
They will be under R&B's professional watch. I can tell you that we've never had an issue in all the times R&B has moved and installed and done changes for us. They've always been very professional and no issues have occurred.
And the number of boards that are at Oak Street and Bachelor will be sufficient to meet the needs of Hinsdale?
Yes, we also have some other ancillary boards over at Pearson that are in storage right now, which will be installed and moved.
So it's about a little less than $1,000 a board.
Yes.
And are these boards Wi-Fi? There's no hard wiring associated with them?
I believe they can be both hardwired and Wi-Fi. I want to say, these are the Wi-Fi boards that we're moving, I believe. Yes.
Okay.
But they do have hard wiring capabilities.
All right, so that would all be part of the building project anyway to do that?
Yes. And they have, where they're being installed in the classrooms, there is hard wiring there for them.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion, I believe, and a second. All in favor of approving the R&B installation of 29 smart boards? Okay. Sounds good? Okay, that's unanimous as well, thank you. Moving on to Barnes.
All right, so in November, I brought to you the Cloder Farm barn proposal. The Board of Education had asked me to get some additional quotes to do some comparison shopping with. You have one loose quote that I placed on your table tonight, which was from Pine Creek Construction. So I want to go through starting on page 43 with the information that I have for you this evening. So the first quote is from the Barnyard and Great Country Garages, and this is for a barn similar to the ones that we had talked about, you know, roughly 20 by 30 with a lean-to attached to it. They do not do concrete on their projects, so this $80,497 would be in addition, there would be an additional upcharge of concrete because we would need our own contractor to do that. So the total of that one with additional concrete would probably be around $95,000, but the quote for just the garage itself for a 24 by 32 was $80,497 from that company. And I will say all the specs between the three barns that I'm going to present to you this evening are very similar in nature in terms of construction. The next barn, which it starts on page, lots of pictures there. Yep, so the next part would be for earthworks, which is the price of an independent concrete foundation from Earthworks, and they had spec'd out a 32 by 36 with a 6-inch thick concrete pad, brook finish, and a 12-inch monolithic slab with haunches on the side of it. And that helps with the heaving and that of the winter. So I'm going to have you just hold on that situation. That's more of a FYI on what an independent concrete foundation would price out to be. The Cloder Farms price for the barn itself was $67,804, and that was for a 20 by 30 double-story garage like we had talked about, and that was the one that was presented in detail to you in November. And the third price that we had received was from Pine Creek Construction, and it is for a 20 by 30 garage with an attic in it. Same, very similar specs to the other ones. The price for this is $70,952.81. And this one here does include the price for the concrete.
So one of the things that I see on the Pine Creek is they're specifying vinyl siding, and I think the others were wood siding,
That is correct.
and they have OS 7/16 OSB sheathing. I'm not sure what the Barnyard used on that one.
I think it was something very similar.
What's OSB stand for?
Oriented strand board. It's not like plywood, it's like if you see all the, looks like chipboard.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that. That's not as strong as plywood, is it?
Depends on who you talk to, it's pretty strong stuff.
I would
It's
imagine
almost like a T111. They're using T111.
For siding.
Yep, if you see on page 51, Cloder is using T111.
So the other difference I think that jumped out to me was Pine Creek is only a 4-inch slab and the other slab was 6 inches. As a matter of fact, on Pine Creek, it said 3 to 4 inches with no wire. That's kind of minimal to me. If you're going to be doing if you're going to drive a truck in and out of it, I'd be more comfortable with a thicker slab, frankly.
Is that wire stuff that goes inside the cement?
Yeah, when they
That
pour a
rebar, right?
slab,
Call that rebar?
rebarb in the wall, but if you pour a slab, it's like
It's like a wire mesh
it's a
grid.
grid. It's usually like a 6x6 heavy steel, and it comes in 4x8 panels. And after they get the ground level, they'll put that down and lift it off the ground a little bit, so it's gonna be halfway through the thickness of the concrete slab.
The concrete floor does have the fiber mesh in it, though.
Yeah, that's good, but it's not wire.
It says
Yeah.
4-inch concrete, plastic concrete floor with fiber mesh and then 3 to 4 inches of stone under that. There's no reference on.
I mean, I can't imagine it would be very expensive to add wire mesh grid in there. It's not an expensive product.
Yeah. So
If
you're,
that is something the board would like to do.
I would rather go on the, I'd hate to build a barn and have somebody drive a truck in, and then 2 years later it starts to crack and you get a mess. I'd rather spend a little bit more money up front. That's just my opinion.
Would it be possible to just, to use earthwork slab? I mean, looking at what I'm looking at is saying the concrete details 19,000 is their quote for a thinner slab.
No, that concrete, that's the lean-to on the side of the garage. The
Oh, I'm
concrete
sorry.
cost is $14,697.66.
What's the lane to for? There's two?
That's the 10 by 30 lean-to that runs alongside the barn to keep the truck under.
Is that something that's gonna be in the other barns?
Yes, that's something that's spec'd in all three.
Don't see that in the design on the barn.
They're general design specs. They're not the exact,
Okay.
they're just showing a similar construction.
So wait, Earthworks doesn't give us a lot of detail about their slab. Am I
No.
missing that?
Just
Like,
that
it
it's-
doesn't speak about the wire in the floor or the,
Foundation.
insulation or blah, blah, blah.
Just that it's 6 inches thick, that's the only thing that they
What
said.
they're saying is a concrete pad, they're not talking about any foundation.
12-inch monolithic haunch on all 4 sides.
That's right.
I'm not quite sure what a haunch is.
That is where they go down below grade a little bit.
Yeah.
Only 12 inches, not a
Yes.
4-foot foundation.
And the foundation walls that the other garage companies are talking about come, so you have your slab, then you have your foundation that the barn actually sits on. So it's raised above the slab.
I want that slab to be as solid as possible.
I agree. I think, everything else is easily fixed if you have a siding issue or a window issue or something like that, but a slab is pretty fundamental to, and again, I would expect it's gonna get a lot of use, so I think for a little extra money, I'd rather go that way.
Well, Pine Creek, I mean, the slabs are about the same price, right? Earthworks and Pine Creek are $14,000. So,
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, can
they're
we,
probably both no wires. Guessing, but I don't know for sure.
I'd like more understanding of what the earthworks slab really is, whether there's a I mean, it does, I like the idea of there being a 4-foot foundation, I think that's structurally important. If it's just a slab with 12-inch haunch, I don't know if that's just because it's a thicker slab, it's making it any stronger, because it doesn't have a normal foundation.
So my suggestion would be to go with a company that does the barn and will size the foundation exactly to what the barn is. Earthworks is doing concrete work at Hinsdale, not associated with the barn, but the barn companies actually do the foundations spec'd to their product. So that's something for the board to consider.
There's the part of the quote on the other guys is a foundation?
Which
Okay, I see that. No, it's foundation.
company are you looking at,
Well,
Chair?
right now I'm looking at, Clotter Farm.
Floater?
Yeah, they did not give us a quote on the foundation.
I don't see anything in there about a foundation.
No, they did, they said they don't do concrete work.
Okay,
So it would be them and Earthworks.
so like Pine Creek is doing the foundation.
Yes.
Pine Creek is treater, oh my God. Pine Creek is cheaper.
Yes, but it's gonna go up with, it's more of a foundation, I don't know how much, but.
Well, if you're just looking for putting the grid wire in, I mean, I can't imagine that's more of a $500 upcharge. I mean, that wire's cheaper. And it's just literally a matter of laying it down and pulling it up into the middle of the concrete slab.
And with the wire, just putting the wire instead of the fiber mesh, would that make this a significant enough difference to make
The fiber mesh is part of the concrete itself, so it's part of the mix that they do the concrete with. I think it's fiberglass that is in there.
Fiberglass strands are usually half an inch long or something like
So,
that.
Doug, I mean, putting the wire in the floor, that adds enough to make up for the fact that it's not a 6-inch slab.
Well, I don't know if you could put wire in a 3-inch slab or a 4-inch slab. I'd have to find that out.
I know that I can only speak for what they did at my house, but I know that when they did our patio, it was 4 inches thick and they put wire grid in it.
They did. Okay.
Yes.
Driving a truck on it.
We're not driving a truck on it, though. No.
So I'd like to find out what the extra cost would be, you know, to have Pine Creek, you know, add wire, and if they can add wire with 4 inches, would they have to increase it to 6
So-
inches, or?
Because these products are going up in price because of the market right now, would the board want to consider giving me a not-to-exceed number if I can get the thicker slab or the wire, whatever you guys direct me to do? Because I'd like to be able to lock in these prices so that we don't incur just inflationary cost with product availability.
And I understand that and respect that. Is there, it's kind of hard for us to say what the cap would be. It's not a usual circumstance for us to do that.
Nancy, do you have your calculator?
I'm sorry?
Do you have a
I do.
calculator? Okay, so 20 feet times 30 feet divided by 12.
20 times 30 is 600 divided by 12 is 50,
Okay, divide that by 27.
divided by 27.
Okay, so that's an extra 2 yards of concrete. So
Yep.
So even if it's 150 a yard, that's, you know, not a lot of money. It's probably a less than $500 differential. The form-
277.
yeah.
Okay.
The form work will be the same because it's not going to change anything.
This is with what kind of inches, how many inches?
Adding an inch, that would be the upcharge for an inch of concrete.
To 5 inches for
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Now, this other
And the-
company was talking 6 inches, and they're the ones doing the Hinsdale work, earthworks. And they're into cement, you know what I'm saying? Do we need to go 6 inches?
Well, for another
With trucks.
yeah, for another $300 or $400, you probably can. Why not?
Yeah, but they're not, the company isn't talking about any wire in that pad either, which may count for the 6-inch slab. And that's, there's just so many variables, you know, that we don't have a full understanding. I mean, this quote is just so minimalistic from Earthworks, we don't really know
Oh,
what exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like, they're like, here.
They're like, we really don't care. You know?
Yeah,
You're taking it or leaving it.
It's probably a peanut job for them. I
Well-
appreciate Pine Creek's detail, I really
Yeah,
do.
I do too.
But I would wanna go ask them more for something like a 6-inch with some wires because of the truck factor and New England winters.
Can we give Melanie authorization to spend up to $75,000? Would that cover for the concrete in the barn with Pine Creek?
I'd agree with that. That sounds reasonable. Hopefully
I'd
it
be
won't
more
be that
comfortable
much.
with that if the whole board was here, but
What do you mean the whole board was here?
we're missing a lot of people today.
Well, we only need a quorum to do anything.
Right. Been under business,
Their business.
we've been running business so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're all concrete experts here, right?
No, that's what I'm not at all, I think.
All right, so why don't we do that? If somebody would be willing to make a motion to authorize Melanie to spend up to $75,000 for the purchase of a barn with concrete work and,
What depth concrete do you want?
I-
5 or 6?
6.
I think go 6. I think
6-inch
everybody's gonna-
concrete and with wire.
I don't know if they're thinking they want lawnmowers on there, we want trucks on there.
I'll make the motion with the proviso that you're not gonna try to spend the extra $5,000.
Oh, I don't think you're gonna get anywhere near that amount of money. But what I will do is I will revise the contract. I'll see if they can get it out to me tomorrow, and I'll email it out to the board with a final number tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay,
I'll
so-
second.
Okay, one other question. I'm not trying to make your life miserable here, but we decided we wanted to build a barn because we thought the aesthetic of a barn-like structure was compatible with the community. Is vinyl siding going to be meeting that standard the same way the wood siding would?
I think it's lower maintenance.
It is lower maintenance.
And I think there was a lot of vinyl in this town.
There is vinyl everywhere. in this town.
Vinyl, and asbestos, and metal.
So I'm just raising the question because that is a big difference
Well,
between.
yeah, I mean, you're at 70, with 5,000 extra, so you're at 75 on that Pine Creek. And the Clotter Farms, with the number from, what was it? Earthworks, we're $5,000 away, and only by a name, I know Clotter Farms to be like the best you could get in Connecticut.
Well, yeah,
So-
but the Clotter Farm doesn't include the $14,000 or $15,000 slab.
No, but if you add the, so just to give you a total price for
Yeah.
Cloder Farms, with the earthworks, so Cloder Farms barn is 67,804,
800.
plus the,
153, there you go.
let me just get the earthworks.
14,550.
14,550. That brings you to 82,354.
And
So,
again, we're hoping it's not gonna be another, we don't anticipate to be another $5,000 to increase the slab.
not at all,
So you're talking 10 grand savings then,
potentially.
potentially.
I mean, one other question to ask, and I don't know if this is an option with Clotter Farms, but would switching from wood to vinyl make that cheaper enough to make it worth going with the better company? I mean, we could go around and around in circles
Yeah, I don't
with
think
this.
they would do vinyl. Melanie and I went to their showroom display, and we probably looked at 30 different barns, and not one of them had vinyl on it.
Okay,
I think that's kind of their stick, is the wood siding.
okay.
Barnyard as well.
Clotter didn't give us a picture here. We don't have a picture from Clotter.
Yeah, you do.
Where?
There should be one there, no?
You know, I just got the floor plan. Okay, Devo and your little.
No, they didn't, I can get you one on my phone though.
Yeah, I thought we'd seen that.
I think it was in your last board packet.
Pine Creek barn is not quite a barn. It's a garage.
It's a garage,
True.
that's what
We
we,
talk about aesthetics, and we just, when you look at this, the other question I had is the functionality though. See the Pine Creek, they have that in between two doors, they have a post, right? The barnyard, in between their two doors, is there a post? That might matter for bringing trucks in and out, the post might be in the way. On the one hand, however, two small doors allow a human being to open the doors if the power goes out.
the barnyard photo shows a post in between the two garage doors.
Yeah, you can see that? Okay,
Yeah.
good.
So
But
on
this-
all of the garages, we are doing a garage door and a half, not two single garage doors.
Okay.
So
this
that's
one-
a spec'd change from the pictures. Like I said, those are just spec'd pictures,
Okay.
they're not the exact design.
So no concern about a post.
No, there will not be a post in the middle of your garage door.
There you go.
But each door can open separately.
There will only be one garage
Oh,
door.
right, you said garage and a half.
It'll be a garage door and a half.
All right, so if power goes out, a human being can lift this.
Yes, and there's also a single entry side door on the opposite side of the lean-to.
All right.
Want to start a building committee?
I think we just did.
So we have, a motion on the floor,
Do we?
right, Doug?
I don't know. I asked for a motion to spend up to $75,000.
I made the motion.
Okay.
And I seconded it.
And we're not worried about the vinyl siding. That's okay with us. Okay, just want to make sure that's good.
What color vinyl siding would the board like? Hinsdale is going to be red brick, like the color it is now, with a grayish blue steel on the outside. What color garage would you like?
Aquamarine.
Hot pink. Chartreuse.
I leave that to your good graces.
I don't think they do. Is there such a thing as red vinyl siding?
They don't do red vinyl siding
How
because
about
it
a gray?
fades.
The gray that goes.
I
with
think
the
you're
steel?
looking at probably a gray or a white.
Not white, not white.
White gets dirty. But I'm gonna leave it to your, I would leave it
What do you want?
I would take
to
the
Doug's got
gray.
good eyes.
No, well, if it was Doug, it would be sheet or shake.
Yeah.
True. With me.
So we will go with me. Off, not white, gray.
Gray?
Yeah.
4 degrees on gray. All right. And I'm just gonna go with like a charcoal black architectural shingle for the,
It's getting ugly, everybody.
you guys okay?
Yep.
Ask the art teacher.
Vote on this.
I know, all in favor? Good, thank you. Are you abstaining?
I'm abstaining from this. This is.
Okay, we have a barn sort of in the works. That's where we were.
Page 53.
Yep.
All right.
Moving bid analysis sheet, is this what we're?
Yep. So Nancy had put out a request for proposals, an RFP, for moving services. Again, this is in relation to Oak Street moving back to Pearson and moving to Hinsdale, and Bachelor moving into Hinsdale. So when we put an RFP out, there's very specific criteria that we put in the RFP in relations to what our needs are. Then there's also similarly, they have to provide us with additional information that shows that they can actually commit to doing the job. So we had, on November 17th, 3 companies bid on our request for proposals. We had Fallon Moving, Daily Moving and Storage, and Lippincott. They have to provide in their bid package at the time of opening the fact that we received it on time and it was sealed. They have to provide the bid sheet, which provides us with the information. They have to prove to us that they've been able to do 3 or more similar jobs. They have to provide us with a solid permanent price. They have to provide us with their proof of insurance. They have to provide us with their proof of insurance in Connecticut and their license. And then this one did not have any equipment needed. So for 2 of the 3 were disqualified right off the top because they did not provide us with proof of insurance, nor did they provide us proof of an active Connecticut license. So Fallon Moving and Storage was declined right off the top. Daily Moving and Storage was also declined. Part of the bid process is if you forget something, you don't go back out and seek it from that. That would be unfair in the bid process. So Lippincott did provide us with the bid on time. They did provide us with the bid sheet. They do have more than 3 qualifying similar jobs. Their price was $72,000. They provided us with proof of insurance, and they provided us with proof of Connecticut licensure.
So it's gonna cost us $50,000 to go with the one company that has insurance and a license.
One company that thought to include everything that they needed. We don't know
Yeah,
whether the others have insurance or license.
If I could interject, if you flip the page and you look at what Lippincott is actually providing, the information that they provided of how they were going to do things was head and shoulders beyond
Oh, sure. Yeah.
what the other companies provided, if they provided anything at all. So I feel that our furniture and such will be moved, and it will be secure, and it will not arrive damaged, and our files and our supplies. I know it's a lot more money than the other 2 companies were, but A, we have to follow the process because we're a public entity, and B, that's how it went, unfortunately.
We don't have an option to resend it out for rebidding?
We could, couldn't we?
I think we can reject it. This sounds astronomical to me.
It's the board's prerogative.
Right, I don't think a company gets it by default. You know, because then they could, could be a set, all sorts of things could lead to that. And I don't think that's us doing service to our community. I understand it's nice to have white glove treatment all the time, and, but we've got to be practical with how we're spending money. And
Not for nothing, could we do something when the community adopts a room and helps us with the move?
Absolutely not.
Liability.
No,
the
that
insurance
liability
company will
would
have
be
a
through the roof. Someone slips, falls, breaks an ankle, no thank you.
Act, yeah, anything.
So these other companies are like two men in a truck sort of outfits, or they?
No, I know of Daily Moving and Storage. I've seen their vans and that. I understand them to be, a larger business. I'm unfamiliar with Fallon Moving.
Fallon moved us last time.
Okay.
So,
Doctor-
if it's within our prerogative to rebid it,
I'd make a motion to resubmit this for bidding.
Second.
okay. Any other comments or questions? So that was a motion.
Dr.
right?
Dutton had his hand up.
I was 30 seconds short. I was gonna move approval of the Lippincott bid.
Yeah. Okay, but you changed your mind.
I didn't change my mind, I got beat to the draw.
Okay.
Well, this could fail, and then we can go to your bid, your proposal.
All right, so we have a motion to rebid this project in a second. Any other discussion, any questions on it? All in favor of?
Wait, I got a question.
Yep.
How long would this take?
It's going to probably take an additional 2 months. And time is of the essence right now because we have a certain window of 15 days to get this done.
Well, time meaning that you need people to commit.
I need people to commit, and with other people scheduling moving companies in the summertime, I need a large portion of their business. That's why we're headed to do this now, because I need them to commit from July 1 to July 15 to move those buildings, because otherwise we're going to incur rent charges from Oak Street. We're going to incur issues going forward and not have these buildings up and ready. So time is definitely of the essence. If we have to rebid this, I probably, as soon as the bid is received, would ask the board for a special meeting to review the bids.
And that would be in 2 months' time.
I am going to try to expedite that.
Can it be, what's the turnaround time required by the?
We
project?
have to post it for,
At least 2 weeks, but we have to get people to bid. That's the issue. There aren't a lot of moving companies around here, which is part of the rub.
So it's gonna cost us more money if we wait in a way, because we'd have to,
it depends on the availability of the contractor. We might be able to save, let's just say, we ended up going with the cheapest version of 21,000. If we wait, let's just say on the short end, a month, on the long side, 2 months, potentiality of them not being available for July 1. Nancy, the other question I have is, I know that proof of insurance was not provided, nor was Connecticut licensure not provided by the 2 companies. Is there anything, and maybe this is a Mark question, that would allow us to seek their insurance?
Well, the one
Certificates.
One of the companies was there for the bid opening, and he said, well, I can get that for you right now, and I said, I can't take it right now. I mean, when we go out for an RFP, we do it the same way that the town does. We have the same amounts, anything over or anything over $20,000, we must go out to bid. So, unless it's a sole source.
any
With the board
company
approved.
that goes out to bid, they should know that they need to have those proof of insurance and when they're bidding.
And it is part of our RFP when we put it out that we require those documents to be
Right.
submitted at the time.
Underlined.
Yes.
We said we had used Fallon before, I thought.
Yes, it was Fallon before, but it was not to the extent that this move is.
So it was under $20,000, so they didn't need to bring one in, or?
But they need to provide an active one that's reissued as of now. We used Fallon years ago, because I don't even remember using them.
No, it was before you came.
Yeah.
It was when we first, when we closed Hinsdale. The custodians did a lot of the move, and then Fallon did part of the move, and it was not a great situation.
So what we're saying here is Fallon and Daly could have insurance or license in Connecticut, but they did not present them here at this time.
That is correct.
Right, it's required part of the bid package.
I mean, the licensure, that's something we could check online, but that we can't check the insurance.
Be
So-
mindful, sometimes companies bid it, just get sloppy because they don't want the job,
That's true.
just to tell you that.
Well, why would they bid it?
They were, asked, maybe it's good for business, I don't know, but my brother, not for nothing. I'm sorry, I'm calling him out on TV, but if he doesn't want a job, he'll overbid it. So that can happen either way.
And that could be, Lippincott that's overbidding it because they don't really want it. I mean, that's,
I don't know,
I don't either.
that's something to think about.
Well, we have a motion to seek additional bids and to rebid this project on the floor. So all in favor of doing so, say aye.
Can you find her to get a fee for
So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. And against, Jeanette and Doc and Nora, where are you on this?
I'm gonna abstain because I can't decide, it's a little too fast for me right now. I know the danger of rebidding, waiting 2 months, and then with today's market, it's really hard to get companies. And we have that short window of July 1 to July 15.
Well, that's true, but, oh, let's not go there right now. So it looks like the motion carried.
To rebid.
So we will rebid. Nancy, you and I need to get together tomorrow.
What was the number again on the
Four.
motion?
4, 2 against and 1 abstention. And you got that, Barb?
421?
Yeah. All right, so that's behind us. And the next item is committee assignments, and not everybody got back to me, so I'm going to just poll the board as we sit here today. Sal, I think you said you wanted to be on policy.
I had a question. Are the meetings that are coming up next week, are they right after each other, one after the other?
Yeah.
Is it possible for the first time I go to both and check it out?
Absolutely.
I would like to do that.
We encourage,
Yeah.
okay, so
I would like
you-
to do both the first time, and I
So you-
would make
you-
my decision on at least one
okay,
after that.
that's fair.
Thank you very much.
They're both exciting as hell.
Doug, you want us all to?
Oh, I always, same as they always do, policy and finance.
Okay.
Okay, hold on, wait. Cheryl,
And Jeanette, I believe you said you wanted
Curriculum.
curriculum, right? And Renee, you were,
What was I? I was curriculum and policy.
you want to do both, good. We encourage doing both. And Doc, you were on policy before, what was you, are you still want to stick with that?
I'll stay.
Okay. And Nora, curriculum.
Couple questions.
Yeah,
For the good of the order, you're gonna have to write the names down of these people because she's not.
I've got it.
okay. Nora, you're still curriculum, correct?
Well, I have a question. Are we all serving on finance as in past
Yes.
practice?
Yes,
Okay. Yes, I'm serving, I would like to serve on curriculum.
okay. My understanding, and I could be wrong on this, is that the first committee meeting will be the organizational meeting where you elect a chair. So I'm going to suggest that when we meet for the first time, that Melanie conducts those meetings until there's an officer elected. And the chair is just simply a facilitator. It's nothing fancy. It's just who calls the meeting to order and whatever. So it's not a power trip, believe me.
so right now, I just want to be clear, on policy, I have Cheryl, Renee, and Dr. Dutton. Doug, are you,
I'm ex officio on everything, so.
okay.
Do we know what Sandra and Kristen, did they ever
Sandra
get back?
told me she wanted to be on policy, I believe.
Okay,
And what about Kristen?
No, I'm sorry, she wanted to be on curriculum, I got that wrong.
Okay.
She wanted to be on curriculum.
And Kristen, did she report back?
Chris is, she did not report
She's
back.
usually on everything.
Yeah.
all right, so right now on policy, I have Cheryl, Renee, and Dr. Dutton. On curriculum, I have Cheryl, Jeanette, Renee, Nora, and Sandra.
Cheryl's not on curriculum.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Cheryl's not on curriculum.
my bad.
Sandra's on curriculum.
Okay, so I have for curriculum then Jeanette, Renee, Nora, and Sandra. On finance, I have everybody, and Tori's going to give me direction that evening
Yeah,
afterwards.
I just would like to attend both,
Sure.
the first time.
And just so
Just
you know, you
watch
can
and see
always
what's going on.
attend. Everyone's invited to all the meetings, whether you're on the committee, but only the people who are appointed to the committee vote on anything at
And these guys count towards quorum.
quorum, yes.
That's important.
But you can come to, you know, if you're on curriculum, you want to come to policy, you can come to policy and be part of the discussion and be, you know, there's no prohibition on that at all.
But Melanie makes a very good point. We need to, everybody can be there, but you need a quorum. So if you
Right.
have a committee of 5 people, you need to have 3 there to be
Yeah,
able
each
to vote
time,
on
or
anything.
you can't make decisions.
All right, so we'll finalize that on the 14th and get everything nailed down.
Okay.
And the final item on the agenda this evening is is approving our calendar. Right?
Yes. So Darlene and I went through calendar dates for the Board of Education. We did, for January, February, March, we did have some dates where there were 5 Tuesdays in the month, so we kept with the 4th Tuesday, as long as it didn't overlap with like a vacation or a holiday. For instance, we had a board meeting that was going to be scheduled on Election Day, so we moved that date and altered it because I didn't think it would be appropriate to have a board meeting on Election Day.
Oh, that's because, why did we have a meeting here today? I had it in my calendar for next week, which is why I was.
Next week is the committee week
No, but this is the first,
No, you moved it. remember?
because of the Christmas holiday.
okay, because, yeah, I didn't get that note.
Yeah, so it's because of the Christmas holiday.
Yeah, because I still have it on my calendar for next week, from when we approved the original calendar. Anyway,
And obviously, we can move these dates if something happens.
which we've done.
Right. But you need to publish this,
I have to
correct, Mel?
publish that by January 1, according to legislation.
Okay, so I think we can approve that now. Is there a motion to approve the calendar as presented on page 55?
Yeah,
Okay, Sal made the motion, Cheryl seconded, all in favor? Good, that was quick.
Motion to adjourn.
Well, okay, that's fine. There is an item on there that says
Oh,
approve
public
board
meeting.
education goals, but I talked about that a little bit earlier, and we will be bringing that up on future agendas.
And we have the second discussion.
And I have to ask if anybody would like to make a public comment. Would anybody like to make a public comment? Would anybody like to make a public comment? Screen going, we're done.
So now I renew my motion to adjourn.
Yes.
Sorry, we're adjourning?
Wait, you're disappointed?
What happened to the review of the board and goals? I missed that.
Okay.
We're going to pick that up at our next meeting. What?
Page 56 and 57.
Yeah,
Such a stickler.
I would like to defer that so that when we talked about this from Nick Caruso, okay, I would like to put the goals into the context of this document and pick one item every month out of this and relate it to our board goals.
Okay,
Does that work for you?
that's fine. I just didn't know if we.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't make that clear.
Caruso is.
And again, I think in all honesty, if we were to start talking about this now at the end of the meeting, it's not gonna get the attention it deserves. So I'd
I
rather put
agree.
it, and.
So would
Cheryl
you like
agrees.
that back on the January meeting, or?
We're gonna have a board goals and there's gonna be an agenda item every month
Got it.
concerning board
Okay.
goals.
So this is not being tabled, this is just a discussion to say that we're gonna see this every month.
Yes.
Okay.
I heard a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
You have to second it. No one seconded it.
I'll second.
We'll see you next. Thank you all.
Guys, hold on. Seamus has to turn off the recording.